Yo, what's up everybody? It's Drewberry back with another custom card video. Let's go. We're going to be talking about your submissions and 5 lucky winners for the challenge that was all about losing, either lost or lose or any of that type of keyword in the card. And there was really good submissions. Thank you to everyone who submitted. And the next challenge for you guys, it's going to be a 2-week challenge because of the holidays coming up. I'm going to be a bit busy. I think that's pretty fair. The keyword's going to be give because it is the season for giving, right? And I thought I'd make the theme winter. It could be like Christmassy or whatever holiday you do celebrate, or if you just want to splash in a little bit of cold into it, I think that's fair enough too. So just get creative with it. It's pretty open-ended with these different types of themes that aren't Marvel focused. I'm pretty flexible. I'm not going to be too picky, okay? And if you want to submit a card, you can join the Berryverse Discord. I'll have the link in the description below. You can create a custom card using that link, and you can post one submission in the weekly challenge channel. Please go back and delete an old one if you post a new one, and try to have the background of the card transparent. There is an option with that link right there when you create a card, okay? And the season pass winner this time around is Polydude with Radioactive Man, a 2/1. If this would lose power permanently, gain 2 power instead wherever it is. That's actually really cool. Essentially, you do a hazmat bomb, and instead of losing 1 power, you'd gain 2. I like that a lot, actually. That's pretty cool. But Polydude won because they submitted a card, and I just randomly selected from the Berryverse Discord a winner. So you always have a chance to win this. So congrats. And very cool card. I'm also thinking of like Yellow Jacket now and stuff like that. That's pretty neat. I like that. Very cool, very cool. Nicely done. Let's get to this week's winners. But kicking it off first, I've got my card here, and I went with a fan favorite in Baron Zemo. So a 4/7 costs 1 less for each turn you lost priority. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this right off the hop. I think this is pretty broken. Like it's pretty strong anytime you have cost reduction, stuff like this. Being a 4/7 is the stat line I just wanted to use. Honestly, you could make this probably like a 4/6, even a 4/5 maybe. But the reason I kind of stuck with it is because like to lose priority is it's not every turn that you don't have priority. It's when you actively regain priority and then lose it. That's what I'm looking for. That's what would trigger here. And why I stuck it on this character is because he's all about revenge, and he's trying to get back at the Avengers essentially. So I just thought it'd be interesting if he was kind of losing throughout the game. You keep losing priority, which means your opponent is winning, that he gets slightly more powerful, or at least a little bit cheaper, and then you can drop them on the final turn. And I was thinking you could use things like Moon Girl to duplicate them so that you try to get that priority and then lose it, something like that. You have 2 of them, they're getting discounted. You could discount it further with Sabu or Sarah to just create a very big turn 6 play with a bunch of 7 power Zemos, which I think would be pretty fun. So yeah, probably a little overtuned. I'd probably adjust them a little bit, but the concept, you get the idea, and that's what I was kind of going for. I would love to see this character in Snap. I think there's a data mined, but there's no stats to it. There's no stat line. There's no ability. We just kind of have like minor data that they're like going to eventually add this character. It's just a matter of time, and I'm excited for it. He's a pretty fun character. So anyways, there you go. That's my submission. Let's get to this week's winners. Number 5, Scourge's FANTOMEX. All right, Scourge, let's go. Very cool card here. A 1/2 at the end of each turn. If you are losing here, return a friendly card here to your hand. So kind of duplicating the word here, but really you need to focus in on it because you have to actively be losing that location, and then the cards that are at that location are going to get bounced back to your hand. So bounce strategies can be very strong, but it's a little bit weird here because we don't actually want to be stacking a lot of power. You'd be thinking, oh, well, I could bounce back like that Angela I've been buffing, so I can do it again and make her even bigger or anything like that. Well, there's problems. You can't really focus in on what you're going to bounce back unless there's only 1 card there. And then we also have to make sure that we're losing that location to actually get the effect. So I was thinking of cards like the Hood would be an amazing pair, because Hood actually pushes us down in power. So as long as our opponent hasn't played anything there that would give them less power, we're probably going to be losing that location with just those 2 cards there. And it guarantees that we bounce the Hood back, and we can keep playing him there to get demons turn after turn after turn. On top of that, there's Hazmat. Hazmat, you play it there, it hits FANTOMEX, becoming a 1/1. Hopefully 3 power at that point in time is enough for us to lose the location, but we keep nuking our opponent's side of the board, and at least the other 2 locations, you bounce Hazmat back, and then you keep playing her again and again. And eventually it gets easier to be losing that location with FANTOMEX. And then you just keep bouncing Hazmat back and bombing the rest of the field. Another one is Celine. She's going to be coming out in a week and a half or so. And if you don't know, her ability is she gives -3 power to the lowest power card in each player's hand. That would be really nasty, right? And she has negative power on her own, right? Which makes an fairly decent situation for FANTOMEX to be losing that location. So I think this is really cool and kind of tricky to make use of. You end up putting this in a location you're winning, or your opponent decides to just omit that location so that you don't get this effect, that it's just a 1-2. And so it definitely has its downsides and it's tricky to use. So yeah, I thought it was really cool, Scorch. Thank you for submitting. Number 4, Cabbage Cage, White Wolf. All right, so Cabbage Cage here with the own custom Cabbage Cage signature art. Looks so good. I love it. We have White Wolf, doubles in power at the end of each turn if you're losing 2 locations, 2-1. So if you double off 1 trigger, it's just going to go to 2-2, but then the scaling starts to take off from there, especially if we incorporate a few buffs along the way, like Okoye, Nakia, Shuri, whatever else. I don't think you want a Shuri or White Wolf, but you get the idea. You get a few power on this sucker, and then all of a sudden he starts doubling, and it's going to get out of control. But if he is doubling, then that means we're losing 2 other locations, which is probably not ideal, unless we're setting up for that final turn. But that's a little bit difficult in its own right as well. You could straight up just play White Wolf at 1 location, pass the rest, right? The other 2 locations empty, and just keep passing turn over turn over turn, hoping that your White Wolf is continuously doubling. And then maybe if we get to a certain point, I guess if you played it on turn 2, we wouldn't be at that much power by the turn 6. And I was thinking Arnim Zola play to copy this at 2 different locations. But then you're winning 2 locations and you don't get that end of game trigger. And you kind of need it. Or maybe you do. Maybe you do get the trigger and it pushes you into a win, but that's going to be a tight race. Actually, you know what? That could be actually really cool, because if you're going to double, if you're at like 10, boom, boom, turn 6, doubles, 20-20, win the game, that's cool. And that's only if you Arnim Solo copy it and pass the rest of the turn or something like along those lines. Anyways, okay, I find that very cool. But I thought the card was very interesting, not because of that little tangent that I went on there, but alternatively, because of the comparison to Black Panther, right? So Black Panther doubling in power when he's revealed. White Wolf kind of needs you to be losing to double in power, and just having, that theme across a lot of the characters, I think is kind of fun in Marvel Snap. They sort of do it, and they admit they don't, but they sort of do. And we'll see it a little bit later here with another card. But they do it with like the spiders, right? They're all kind of moving. And then we have Wakanda, Team Wakanda, that's always kind of like giving power, doubling in power, doing that sort of thing. So I think White Wolf fits in just fine. And a 2-1 is a very interesting stat line for scaling. So much more interesting than maybe Havoc that's coming out in a few short days. So anyways, well done, Cabbage Cage. I love the art. The 2 on the left are very cool too. And then you got like the crackle effect. That's like a signature Cabbage Cage crackle. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be cool if that was in Marvel Snap? It gives me Berryverse vibes as well, so I love it. Very cool, well done. Definitely check out Cabbage Cage. I'll have his link in the description below. Has a YouTube channel and shows off some of his custom, personally done art, and it's always awesome. So thank you, and let's get to number 3. Number 3, Max Beam's MARVELMAN. All right, MARVELMAN here. Now, I did see a lot of people do something similar to this, so I apologize. I mean, I can only pick one, right? But there was a couple of people with this and have done it for past submissions. But I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's a very interesting comeback mechanic. And that would be if your finisher can only be played at a location you are losing. MARVELMAN is doing that with a 15 power stat line, 615. So I think it's quite interesting because obviously there's a huge advantage to playing at a losing location on the final turn. Really, when you look at this condition, it's not that cumbersome. Like it's not that much of a downside because you want that swing. And if you're winning 2 out of 3 locations, and if you play MARVELMAN at the 3rd, that would give you the win at that location, you're probably in a pretty good spot. I find that's a very nasty swing when you play your big power card at the 1 location that you were losing, and then your opponent has to somehow make up ground at 2 locations in the final turn. They might not see that coming, so it can be a nasty swing. So I think it's a very interesting card. Now, is this the right stat line to do so? I don't know. 15 power is nuts, isn't it? Right? When you talk about a card that really the condition isn't that difficult to meet. Like we're looking at Infinite that has 5 more power and you got to skip an entire turn. You're looking at like The Hulk, that has to have like unspent energy with the evolved Hulk. Giganto can only be played at the left. But if you're not losing a location and going to the final turn, you cannot play this card. And maybe we look at like Jubilee Lockjaw synergies. So there's other ways to make use of this card, and there's other ways to get kind of bricked and not be able to play this card, which kind of somewhat balances it out. But I would say more often than not, you're losing a location going to the final turn. Another thing to think about is maybe you don't want to play at that location. Maybe you're losing it so bad that playing MARVELMAN would not help. You do not want to do that. You wish you could play him elsewhere, and then it becomes very restrictive and probably fair. So I see it going both ways, but I think it's a very fascinating effect that I really could see coming to Marvel Snap eventually, because we have things like Crossbones that can only be played at winning locations. But why not have a card that can only be playing at losing locations? I think it would get a lot more play than Crossbones, which would win more cards. So anyways, very interesting to think about. Thank you for submitting. Let's go to number 2. Number 2, Black Gators, Scarlet Spider. All right, Ben Riley, the Scarlet Spider. Let's go. So obviously a lot of people are kind of upset about this, but there is a Scarlet Spider variant in Marvel Snap right now for Spider-Man, which at the time probably made sense for them to do, but then it also kind of sort of takes away from a variant in a character. I think they've kind of said that that's not going to stop them from making characters in the future for future cards, even if the variant is shared with another character. I don't know. There's a few lines. It's like making Miss Minutes, but you have Ravonna, that sort of thing. They'll have to figure that one out. But anyways, doesn't really matter. We got Ben Riley, the Scarlet Spider, a 2/3. If you are losing this location, move to a different one and gain +2 power. Dude, I love this card. One, we're falling in with the spider theme, which is just fantastic, right? Got that movement, and we got that kind of Silk-esque effect of moving to a random location that we don't really necessarily have control, and this card's probably going to become a 2/5 at some point in time. You play this at a losing location right away, well, you're guaranteed it's going to move and get +2 power. But then it's like, oh, why don't we just run Silk? And then if it falls into a location that we didn't want it to be, or a location that we're just always winning, and then it won't move again and get another 2 power, that might be a little bit annoying. Or what if we all of a sudden are losing that location at the final turn, and our opponent played cards to, start winning that location to make Scarlet Spider move and really win that location? You got to watch out for that as well. So I actually really like this, because in a roundabout way, the upside is the power and the movement, the synergies and all that good stuff that you probably wanted with your deck. But the downside is I think your opponent has more control of where this card lands than you do, or at least has a certain degree of control, which is not something you ever want in Marvel Snap. You don't want your opponent to have control over anything that you're doing. So that is so cool. I think this would be really balanced, really fun card, and very strong as well. I don't think it'd be a weak card. Like it would do well, but it'd be fun, and it'd give your opponent a chance to counter it, which is neat. Also gets smacked by like Shadow King and these sorts of things. If it scales too high, it gets hit with Shang-Chi. There's a lot of ways to get around this card. But yeah, I think it's very cool. I also think that you can't just move this card to get the +2 power. It has to coincide. It has to trigger off of that losing at a location effect to move. So anyways, I thought it was really, really cool. And it's not an on reveal or an ongoing either, right? It's just that triggered effect. Look at the variants on the left there. They look sick, especially that bottom one. I think that's my favorite. But they look really cool. Well done. Love the base art, and the text there is always so good. I would like to see this character come to Snap. I would like to see more Spideys come to Snap, which I think we will. Whenever there's a movie launching for that, we're probably going to get another Spider season. There's going to be many more to come, but this would be a very cool addition. Thank you for submitting this. And now on to number 1. Number 1, Jack Pack's Grandmaster. All right, so Jack Pack, man, wins again. So good at making cards. And we have the Grandmaster. Now, the Grandmaster is a confirmed-ish Dad Mind card. We're going to see it in January, whether it's stat line and ability holds, most likely. But anyways, I think this is a more interesting Grandmaster, and that's what Jack was kind of saying. He doesn't really love the current effect. It's like just another Absorbing Man in a way, a little bit different, few nuances there. But this is a very cool Grandmaster, in my opinion. It's setting up little quests. So there's a lot to break down here. I'm going to kind of just skim over the tasks, is what they are called for this card. But Grandmaster is a 2/3. So you got to play the Grandmaster, and then at the start of each turn, receive a task. If completed, gain +2 energy the following turn. If failed, lose 1 energy instead. So high risk, high reward. And the way that this was described to function is it would be like Nico. So you know how like Nico preloads that spell and kind of shows on the board what spell she's going to cast. There's a little indicator. Well, Grandmaster would do that as well. He would just start to look like the task that is currently in play. So he'd be still a 2/3 on the board, giving 3 power, but now his task is end the turn with control of the highest powered card. So if you accomplish this at the end of the turn, well, then the next turn you're going to have +2 energy. But if you do not have the highest power card in play, which your opponent knows you have to achieve this task, well, then you're going to have 1 less energy next turn. So now it's a little bit of a race between you and your opponent. Your opponent's going, oh shoot, I gotta play something high power here so that they don't have energy, and then like I can really scale this out of control. This can get out of hand, or they just forego it and just do their own game plan. But I love the thought process here, and the reason I have some synergies on the left there, I really didn't know how to synergize this because there's so many varying tasks. But I thought, okay, if we're scaling, maybe the Thanos stones would be good because you're going to see there's like some that involve playing a lot of cards, having the most cards. I thought Professor X would be really good because if we go turn 2 Grandmaster and then we win the first task, we'll have 5 energy on turn 3 and we can play Professor X, lock in a lane, and maybe be good from there. Maybe that'll help win some more future tasks. And then lastly, I thought Galactus because of ramp, right? So let's look at some of the more of the tasks here. So then you have end the turn with the cards with more cards than your opponent at Grandmaster's location. Very interesting, incentivizing people to play there and maybe locking themselves up in a rush to just prevent the energy here. It could be a bait, which is kind of cool. End the turn being ahead at Grandmaster's location by at least 5 power. Very cool. Kind of difficult to do, but you know, like if they have Iron Man or something like that, you're probably not going to be able to beat that. But if you have Iron Man, maybe then you'll be fine, or anything high power. Pretty neat. In the turn, having played your first card at any location your opponent played at. Interesting. He's got the sniper location here. I guess it's kind of playing on the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? You just got to make sure that you play. What's very interesting about this is if your opponent knows, they just don't play a card. Right? If they pass the turn, they know next turn you have 1 less energy. Could be something there. And then end the turn having played more cards of unique cost than your opponent. That would be the most hard one for your opponent to control or do anything about, because how are they going to know what cost of cards you're going to play if you play a 1, 2, 3 or whatever like that? But that's pretty neat as well. So And that is the Grandmaster. Oh, we got one more as well. End the turn having played less cards than your opponent and still be winning. That's hard to do. And I think that's it. So there you go. So that's the tasks for Grandmaster. I thought it was just such a fun idea. I especially just love like the battle between you and your opponent, and the energy gains or the energy loss is such an interesting risk reward. So thank you so much, Jack Pack. This was a great submission. Thank you to everyone who submitted this week. It was a lot of fun going over these. We're going to be back after the holidays, so I hope you all have a good holiday season with the family and friends. But then we will do the give challenge in 2 weeks time. So I want to see your best. Let's go. Give me some winter cards. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.